Hi everyone, I'm Miss Scarth, one of the English teachers and the Literacy Coordinator at Halewood Academy. I'm here to talk to you today briefly about some simple ways that you can help to support your child's reading at home. Adolescents entering the adult world in the 21st century will read and write more than at any other time in human history. They will need advanced level of literacy to perform their jobs, run their households, act as citizens, and conduct their personal lives. They will need literacy to cope with the flood of information they will find everywhere they turn. They will need literacy to feed their imagination so they can create the world of the future. In a complex and sometimes even dangerous world, their ability to read will be crucial. Words can rewrite lives. What is literacy first? So literacy is essentially the ability to communicate effectively, both verbally and in writing. It's a life skill which reaps benefits far beyond those of secondary school English studies. It's a responsibility for all of us to ensure that the younger generation have the literacy skills needed to increase their life chances and to contribute positively to society as a whole. Literacy skills are what enable us to participate in the world and have an input in decisions which can have an enormous impact on our lives or the lives of our loved ones. Without literacy, we do not have the verbal or written communication skills needed to exercise our right to vote, to question any wrongdoing, and make informed decisions. We have a responsibility to ourselves to make sure we have the literacy skills needed to be able to see past any information intended to manipulate or mislead us, to interpret what is true from what is false. These skills are our means of defence and individual expression in a world where we are constantly bombarded with a multitude of information. To be literate is to be clued up on the things that really do matter. So, in addition to this, as well as all of what I've talked about so far, literacy skills are really crucial to employers. They are listed as one of the key employability skills for a number of different professions, and this is something that students need to think about starting at year 7 right up to when they leave secondary school in year 11. They need to have their career prospects in mind and their plans for after year 11 in mind. And literacy is going to be one of the key foundations in ensuring that they have the chance to meet their potential, essentially. So just going to talk about some ways that you can help to create a reading culture at home and support your child even further once they leave school in developing a love of reading and recognising the benefits it has for them, not just at the moment, but in the future. So just going through this list first, and then we'll talk in detail about some specific examples. So here's some quite good tips for how to get your child engaged with reading, because I know sometimes it can be a battle to get a child to sit for a long amount of time with a book when there's other things such as Netflix and their mobile phone that seem tempting distractions. So show your teenager that it is as much fun to read a book as it is to watch TV or play on the computer. Modelling this is key. If they see you reading, whether it be a magazine, a newspaper, or discussing with them something that you've read, that is really going to engage them and it's going to act as a really positive example. Create a quiet, well-lit space in your home to encourage reading. Some of the pictures there show some examples of the sort of spaces people have created in their homes, where the child can dedicate that time to becoming lost in a book rather than watching TV and having the usual distractions and the noise stopping them from concentrating. Make sure that your home contains some books that will interest your teenager. We all know that teenagers aren't necessarily going to pick up Charles Dickens as their first choice of novel to read. But that being said, think about their interests and their hobbies. If it's, a child who really likes cars, for example, you could obviously choose books according to their interests. Encourage your teenager to read magazines, newspapers, or sports guides. Leave them around your home. It doesn't really matter what your child reads as long as they're reading something. Subscribe to a magazine that your teenager is interested in. Share articles you've read from the newspaper or magazine. Play audiobooks in the car. This will encourage reading of enjoyment, and also the advantage with audiobooks is it provides the voices of different characters, and so it can help to engage people who maybe struggle to concentrate with longer pieces of text. Recommend adult-themed books that would be appropriate. Link books and reading to films at the cinema or video games they know. That is really, really crucial in engaging the more reluctant readers. Pick a book that is linked to a modern film adaptation. For example, I've put some on the right here. Hunger Games. Hunger Games is a really popular one among students, particularly in year 7 and 8, because they recognise that it has a relevance to the modern film. Northern Lights is another example, since there's a recent BBC iPlayer adaptation of this, and that really helps to engage some of the younger students, because they can use the adaptations to help them visualise what the characters would look like, and so it seems more real to them. Introduce books which are part of a series and biographies. Think about any football players or any singers who they really admire. It could be Beyonce, it could be Steven Gerrard. Try and get them reading about their life a little bit. Ask teenagers to recommend books for younger readers in the family. Make use of ebooks and ebook readers such as Kindles. Young people love having a Kindle or an iPad or some form of technology around them all the time. Use it to your advantage. Try and get them reading, even if it's some short stories or a poem, for example. Here are just some other suggestions of ways that you could help to engage your child in reading. So I've talked already a little bit about biographies of role models such as Steven Gerrard and Beyonce. Michael Jordan's on there as well. You could also expose them to some non-fiction text. A popular one with young people is often The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, which gives them a lot of background to some of the topics they're studying in history. There's also books such as Letters of Note, which contain a series of published letters from famous people about key events. It could be the start of the war, it could be a momentous occasion in history, basically. That can be a really good way of engaging someone who doesn't like reading really long and detailed stories, because they're only a page each, roughly. There's programs such as Audible, which involves you having access to numerous different audiobooks, including very recently released texts. There's a free website called Project Gutenberg, where students can access free online copies of novels. As well as this, BBC iPlayer have got a range of resources, including Culture in Quarantine, which shows some Shakespeare adaptations from the stage in Stratford and at the Globe in London. There's the free online student-friendly newspaper The Day, which not only contains articles linking to global affairs and current issues, but it also contains subject-based topics in their articles, and there's a lot of activities linked to these articles as well. In terms of more virtual ideas, TED Talks are a really good way of engaging students with current topics, which may link in quite nicely to some of the reading options they have. TED are basically a series of talks on a range of topics, and the concept behind them is that they're ideas worth spreading. So it could be some quite motivational speakers that you'd like them to watch. It could be people talking about why reading is important and things like that. There's also the option, if students like rap music and things like that, of some spoken word poets such as Denise Frohman and also Nikita Gill, some of the Insta poets, and Rupi Kaur, because these are really popular among young people, since again they are not very long and they're quite simple, and the spoken word poets, when you listen to them, it sounds very performative. It's very similar to rap music. So on this slide are just some really useful links you can use to access some of the resources I mentioned. Hopefully they'll help. Another way of engaging students with reading is through using displays and visuals. I've created one of these displays in the LRC at the moment called Bookflix, using the model of Netflix, which is obviously a reference very familiar to students. And it's basically a long set of recommended reads for a variety of age groups, categorized into genres. So, you know, if your child hasn't yet found a genre that appeals to them, and they really like adventure stories, for example, there'll be a series of choices on there that they can choose from and possibly find a book that really does play to their interests. Evidence suggests that children who read for enjoyment every day not only perform better academically than their peers who don't, but also develop a broader vocabulary, increased general knowledge, and better understanding of the world around them. Parents or carers are by far the most important educators in a child's life and have a huge influence on their habits, interests, and attitudes. Fostering a love of reading at home and maintaining this throughout your child's education will mean that they develop the confidence to become independent readers, better enabling them to research and revise effectively for all their subjects, and to develop many number of other transferable skills that they will need beyond Year 11. Through listening to adults reading aloud to them from an early age, children are exposed to a rich and wide vocabulary. This helps them to develop their understanding of how words sound, and as a result increases their confidence in using spoken and written language. You can play an essential role in ensuring that your child recognises the value and importance of reading, in helping them to develop skills that will be hugely beneficial in the future. How could I read to my child? How often? This is a question that we get asked quite often by parents seeking a bit of advice and a bit of support. So here's some general guidance which hopefully will help you out. As you read to your child, bring the characters to life. Not everyone wants to act out, stories when they're reading aloud, but even if it's just a case of doing a slightly different tone of your voice when you're speaking, talk about your opinions on the characters, talk about them as though they're real people. What did you think of the way he said that? What do you think about how such a body reacted in the story? Think about your predictions as well. Try and get them really on the edge of their seat about what's going to happen next. Don't be afraid to try out things, even if they don't work very well. You may not win an Oscar, but your child will really appreciate the effort and find it more engaging to see that you're interested. Remember, your face says it all. This is quite a good one. If you look bored, they will too. So try and times your enthusiasm by 3 or 4 if you really want to grip them and have that infectious enthusiasm from them. Emphasize repeated words or phrases. Turn off music or the TV and put phones to one side so you can both concentrate on the reading without distractions. Set a clear time limit which is reasonable, even though it may be a little bit of a battle at first to get them to sit away from their phone or away from the TV and look at a book with you. If it's something they're doing with you and you're responding to it and you're seeming interested, they will eventually come round to the idea and they'll start to recognise it as just as valid a form of entertainment as the TV or their phone or a game. In terms of how often, be led by how long your child can concentrate and build up from there. Try to establish a bit of a routine. This could be 10 minutes before bed or after tea. If your child is the sort of person who starts to lose interest the more tired they get, maybe before bed might not be the best option. Maybe 10 minutes after tea before they go on their game or before they do homework or whatever they do after tea. If you come across a word you don't know while reading, model how you solve this problem using a dictionary or online thesaurus. This shows them to not let unfamiliar vocabulary knock their confidence. This is another example of why modelling is so important. If a child is in the habit of feeling really daunted and put off and closing the book the minute they encounter a word they're not familiar with, reading won't really appeal to them that much because it'll knock their confidence and it'll lower their self-esteem. So give them that building of their confidence, that chance to see you solving problems when you face them and trying to find out the answer for yourself so that they too inherit these habits. This is another common question from parents. What if my child doesn't enjoy reading? What if the child is switching off when reading and I can't get them to focus on it? So here's some useful tips to help you with this. Make sure your child isn't hungry, tired, distracted, or desperate to watch their favourite TV programme when you want to read with them. Choose your time carefully. Set aside a little bit of time each day to read with them about a subject that interests them. Like I say, you could use a TV series or a film as a way of drawing them in, because then they can maybe see some of the characters and it relates to them a little bit more. For many children as they get older, non-fiction books are more appealing than fiction. That's something to bear in mind. So going back to what I was saying before about maybe some biographies of role models they have, like footballers or singers, this might be a way of getting them hooked because they know about those people already. Try to vary the type of books you're reading so they can find something that appeals to them. Give plenty of praise, let them know how pleased you are to see them reading, and show an interest in the book they've chosen. You could do something like reading bingo, where you give them a little card with different types of books on, and when they read one, they tick it off, and they get points. Maybe they get a reward of some sort, make it into a competition. Role models are hugely important. Make sure your child can see you taking time to read regularly. Have a reward system or competition based on how long they read for or how much they read. Make sure they have somewhere quiet where they can focus without their phone or game console distracting them. So overall, to conclude, it is all of our priorities to make sure we're doing everything we can to support your child in fulfilling his or her potential and building successful foundations for his or her future. We have to work together both in school and at home if we're going to stand the best chance at this. You can make a huge difference to your child's life by investing some time into modelling good reading and taking the time to read with them regularly. If you show an interest, they will likely inherit this interest, and this will have lifelong benefits for them. I hope this PowerPoint has been really helpful for you and it's provided you with some practical tips that you could use when supporting your child's reading at home. Any queries, please don't hesitate to contact me via my school email on sgarth@halewoodacademy.co.uk and I'd be happy to help.